Thor Ragnarok.
Hey guys, just got back from seeing Thor Ragnarok. I was going to film this on the walk home, but it was hammering it down with rain, so instead I'm doing it now. I got in, I started making notes on the parts I could remember that stuck out to me, so I've probably missed some bits and pieces. There will be spoilers as well in this for sure, so keep that in mind. Basically, the plot is split into 4 parts in my mind. So the first part is finding Odin. So we see Thor at the start, he has this amazing first battle. To Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin is playing over the top of it. The whole soundtrack for the film is great. You've got some really cool sci-fi electronic sounds in there as well. Just really, really solid. Thor manages to get back to Asgard, and it's weird because he knows Loki's alive. He's basically figured it out. He calls Loki out on it, and Loki's watching. They do a callback to Thor the Dark World, and essentially Loki's watching a play, which is his death, and there's a statue up of him, but it's nice that they do sort of reference, like, here's where we left off with Thor last time, like in the last Thor movie. And then we get the Doctor Strange cameo as well. I was so sad he wasn't in it more, because it's so cool seeing him now. He's just full on Sorcerer Supreme. You know, he's there fucking with Loki, zipping Thor around the house as well. And obviously he's the one that shows them where Odin is. This takes us to the second part, which is Hela is Thor's sister, and the idea that she and Odin kind of took over a lot of the realms. It was very violent, and when she got too violent, Odin banished her, and his sort of life force is keeping her at bay. Odin does pass away, but it's just such a lame death, because he's just like, well, I'm gonna die, and then, you know, he just fades away, and Hela is able to arrive then. The scene in which she arrives, I was a bit worried, because I know they had to use a lot of green screening in it, because they actually changed the location for the scene, but it actually looks okay on film. And then obviously it's at this point she breaks Thor's hammer, and one thing that's cool is the idea that Thor's hammer was what helped him channel his power, but his actual powers, you know, the lightning, is just comes from him, and it's just so badass when you see him just fighting hand-to-hand combat with it. We then have the third main plot point, which is where Thor and Loki end up going to Sakaar because they fall off of the Rainbow Bridge, and Hela arrives in Asgard to take over. So this is like the Planet Hulk section of the film. While Hela's on Asgard, like, the Warriors 3 are all killed off. And I was like, this is crazy. This is really showing just how extreme this film is going to be. There are going to be character deaths. One thing I would have liked more of is more Heimdall, mainly because I want to know what's going on with the last Infinity Stone. I'm sure Heimdall has it. One thing I loved was they go into Odin's treasure room, and there's the Infinity Gauntlet, and she goes, fake. She was like, a lot of stuff in here is fake. And you're like, this whole 2 gauntlets theory that everyone's been banging on about, they were smart enough to go, oh no, just don't worry about that. Like, that's fake. We also see, of course, the Tesseract, which later on you see Loki looking at, and we know that he has it in Infinity War. The Sakaar stuff is cool, because you get, like, there's loads of different portals that are dropping stuff in, and obviously in the comic books there was the wormhole. Thor arrives. There are some similar beats to the Planet Hulk comic book, but it's more that Hulk has more of a Silver Surfer role, and Thor has the Hulk role. So he comes in and they put the little chip in him. There's mention of, like, the Contest of Champions is what it's called, which is pretty cool. We meet the Grandmaster, and Jeff Goldblum is so wonderfully weird, and he's ruthless and just quite a cool character, realistically, to have. The big Colosseum fight is really cool. A lot of people said it was their favourite fight scene in the movie. And it's just an interesting concept of Hulk actually likes it there, because people do cheer him, and he is a celebrity, and he feels that he's hated on Earth. There's also a really cool moment with Hulk, and it's a callback to Age of Ultron. In this movie, they're very good to calling back and linking things together. When him and Thor are fighting, and Thor does the lullaby, and you're instantly just like, this is pretty cool. Obviously, it doesn't work, but then when Thor goes to leave and Hulk gets on the Quinjet that he arrived in, when Nat appears on the monitor again, it's the last message she sent, and that's the only thing that puts him back to being Banner, and Hulk's there punching himself in the face, trying to stay as Hulk. There are moments in this film where I got a little bit like weepy and was like, whoa, that's pretty hard hitting. This has been my favourite Hulk we've seen, because he's been Hulk for 2 years and he can talk properly, and he actually has more emotions, and he has this childish kind of innocence about him, and it just makes him so interesting. The only thing was, like Doctor Strange, Hulk really wasn't in it that much, and especially neither was Banner. Of course, we also get to meet Meek, who Meek doesn't really do anything, he's just there, and it's just a nod to the fact that he was in the comics. I don't see him causing World War Hulk anytime soon. And we have Korg as well. Korg's probably my favourite character. Just everything he says and does sounds like improv, and it probably was all improv. But I love the voice that they chose. Like, the comedy in this film, there is a lot of it, but I think it all worked well. It wasn't too much for me. It wasn't cheesy. It wasn't childish. There was some actual, like, adult jokes in there about orgies and all sorts. Like, really good humour, and I don't think it took away from the film. I just think it made the film very relaxing and fun to watch. The final plot point is the fact that we get the fight for Asgard. One thing I did like, I don't think you'd call it a twist, but the idea that Hela gets her power from Asgard, the longer she's there, the more powerful she becomes. And they get all the Asgardians off of Asgard, and Thor's like, we need to cause Ragnarok. Because he meets Surtur at the start of the film, and Surtur's the one that says, I'll cause Ragnarok, I will drop my crown in the eternal flame, and basically I'm just going to fuck up Asgard. And they decide, right, let's do that. Let's cause it. Asgard will be destroyed. Hela will be defeated. And it's the idea that Asgard is not a place, it's people kind of thing. Another thing that was crazy, because Marvel does a good job at editing spoilers out of their trailers, was Thor losing his eye, which I didn't see coming, and obviously he now has, like, the Odin patch. It's interesting as well at the end that Thor's like, let's go to Earth, and he's got all the Asgardians, because will they do, like in the comics, where they sort of rebuilt Asgard, and it was, like, hovering above Earth a little bit. With the after-credit scenes, the very last one, where you just see the Grandmaster and the Revolution's risen up and sort of defeated him, was a bit meh. But I enjoyed, you sort of see what I can only assume is either the Black Order's ship or Thanos' ship, where Thor literally says, I think everything's going to be okay now, and this massive ship just appears, and I'm assuming that links in with the fact that we see Thor stranded and being picked up by the Guardians in Infinity War. Looking at the characters, Hela was an okay villain. Like, she was ruthless, she actually did some damage, and she felt like a massive threat in that they really had to do extreme measures to defeat her. I'd like to see her come back, though, and maybe be like the Mistress Death for Thanos, so we'll have to see. Loki, at this point, it just annoys me how he's still swapping sides all the time. Like, he has his redemption and you love it, and then he does something else where you're like, oh, okay, so he's still a bad guy. And I get that's a dynamic of the character, but it's just frustrating at times. Jane does get mentioned in as much as apparently she dumped Thor, and that's it. Valkyrie wasn't what I was expecting. When you first meet her, it's very apparent she's a drunk, and she was part of the Valkyries, who were protectors of Asgard, and because of Hela, she ended up actually just leaving and living this scavenger life. But she was a very interesting character. She didn't do an awful lot. Like, she didn't tread on Thor's toes and try and fight for that sort of main spotlight. But she's a good pairing for Thor, which I like. The only other character I really wanted to talk about was Surge, because he goes from like that jokey, oaf, kind of shady character, and then when you think, oh, he's going to be full-blown villain, he's always really reluctant to be a villain, and then at the end ends up helping save the Asgardians. So it was a weird arc for him. There's so many little moments that I could be like, oh, in this moment, oh, in this moment, oh, in this moment. Little things like, there was a clip that got released for it anyway, the get help gimmick where him and Loki are talking about it, and Loki's like, I don't want to do get help. And then they come out the elevator and Thor's like, quick, get help, and then just throws Loki at them. There's so many good comedic moments like that. I mean, Korg has so many, like when one of Loki's illusions disappears and he just runs in and goes, piss off, ghost, and kicks it, and you're just like, this film is full of ridiculous moments like that. Overall, I did enjoy the film. There's a lot of enjoyable moments. I liked seeing this more funny Thor and this new version of Hulk and a fairly decent villain. And we saw just, and like the Planet Hulk thing, this is the start of this Hulk trilogy they want to do. There's a lot in there to like. I think it was just, I thought this was going to be like the best Marvel film they've done so far, and I definitely don't think it was that. Some of the pacing felt weird, but only because you're half an hour into the film and you're like, huh. So all those clips and trailers, like, I've already seen all of that. And it all felt, moments felt rushed, like they see Doctor Strange and then he's here and then he's here and then he's here. And then it's just, yeah, pacing's weird. But I did like the film. There's that twinge of disappointment, but that's only because you get so caught up in the hype for these films that even when they're damn good, you still feel disappointed because they weren't the greatest movie you've ever seen. And I do wish there was more just Infinity War set up and just more going on. That's my instant reaction, having just seen the film and coming out of it, the points that stick in my mind. Thank you for watching, guys. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to help the channel grow. Down below in the description there is competition news as well as the social media links. I will see you in the next one.